Hello and welcome back to Aston Martin, and it's the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix at Imola. It's race 4, and after 2 races of disappointment for Mickey, he's only on 8 points. 70 of our 78 come from Pierre Gasly, currently first in the drivers. I don't know how. Frankly, I don't know how. Our car is not that good. However, one of our car's biggest drawbacks is about to be mitigated. I've not put the part on yet because I need you to see the comparison. That is the difference our new rear ring makes. Now, it's basically a full percent on all the dirty air cornerings. It's around 100ths worth of G on the regular cornerings for the most part. Slightly less in low speed, slightly more in high speed, slightly more tailored towards high speed. Our top speed goes up by 0.09 of a kph, which is more than it looks, and the same with the 0.001 G in the acceleration. That is more important than it looks when you consider where the averages are. And the top speed in DRS going up 0.11 of a kph, that's a surprising one. If we flip over to rank, yeah, okay, irritatingly, seemingly someone's developed in the last 2 days. Not sure what's happened there, because 2 days ago, when this was built, that said 9th. It was more impressive than it looked. In fact, someone's definitely improved, because our cornering and dirty air and all that, our fitted piece is now 7.7 9th and 7.7 11th. So we've moved down 2 places, or at the very least, high speed wise, someone's developed, and low and medium speed, the second car of the car that got ahead of us has joined the party as well. So that might not actually necessarily be someone developing a piece. It might just be someone building a second version of the pieces that they put on the first car. Because remember, we were 6th on those. But this rear ring brings us back into the top half in terms of top speed and regular acceleration, actually. So that is fantastic news there. So intriguingly, it wasn't Mercedes that came through. We know Red Bull is first. They're not even first in high speed anymore. Someone has definitely developed high speed. Ferrari has the best car overall, I think, at this point. Well, that's a discrepancy between parts, isn't it? Jesus wept. McLaren have the fastest car in high speed, but are one of the 2 worst when it comes to low and medium, which explains why they are very much mid to low table overall. So I'm still yet to find the one team that's went ahead of us in low speed last race, and now this one as well. We've re-usurped them for medium speed. It's only Red Bull and Ferrari ahead of us. And quite frankly, there's not that many options left. Remarkably, it was AlphaTauri, who are effectively the inverse McLaren. This explains, by the way, the struggles of Albon and Ricciardo in the last races, because they were exactly the opposite in their strengths, which meant one was gaining where the other was losing, and vice versa, the entire time. So when it came to overtaking, particularly with the AlphaTauri behind the McLaren, that McLaren's high speed on the straight was being negated by the lowest high speed of the AlphaTauri. Oh dear. It's weird that their high speed cornering is bad, but their overall top speed is high, and they had very similar DRS rankings. So that probably partially explains their woes in that last race, which then became our woes. Still doesn't explain how they couldn't get past the slowest car on the grid, though, and pull away from them. There's nothing about Tsunoda, who is actually apparently even worse. There's nothing about Tsunoda's car that explains how he managed to hold on to those 2 when they overtook him. 3 DRS zones, clearly the culprit there. But anyway, if I remember rightly, Imola, just the one, and it's quite a lengthy one. So the fact that we've boosted our DRS top speed dramatically, even if the acceleration hasn't gone up the rankings, our top speed has jumped effectively half the grid. That might come into play with one long DRS. But that's it. I'll see you for qualifying. Well then, once more, don't get your hopes up too much, but we did manage a clean run at the end. I say clean run, Mick got stuck behind Logan Sargent and Carlos Sainz, who was also stuck behind Logan Sargent for his flying run at the end. So he kind of got half a clean lap in and managed to, once they finally got past Sargent, but his tyres had already slightly gone by that point. So it's good for Mick, actually, on that regard, to be even within 0.3 of PS fastest, who had no issues whatsoever. But yeah, 96% car knowledge, just because obviously we changed the rear wing, and we hadn't got to 100% before that. I was about to say this is a track that suits us, but we're actually only just in the top half for high-speed cornering now. This is a high-speed cornering track, by the way, so expect the McLarens to be strong here and the AlphaTauris not to be quite as strong as we saw earlier. Mick, oh, you've run wide on your in-lap. Okay, that's fine. It's not a problem, as long as he's not broken the wing. He did break his wing in practice, but just the one. I was going to say Gasly's gone fastest overall temporarily, but Verstappen's pipped him just after that. But tell you what, it's bloody close. Okay. It's not an exceptionally long lap here at Imola, so naturally the deltas aren't huge. It's a sort of 1:15. It's only about 10 seconds longer than the Red Bull rig, which is obviously notoriously short as a lap. In fact, the qualifying lap here is a 1:14, so you're kind of on Monaco levels there. So Mick being half a second ahead of Stroll as things stand. Do we think 8 cars are going to go faster than Mick? Pierre's fine, obviously. I'm just looking at those drivers down there. Ricciardo's gone faster than Norris, so we'd probably expect more from Norris. Vettel's gone faster than Magnussen, so we'd expect more from Magnussen, who is the faster of the qualifiers out of those two. There's obviously more from Ocon, but we'd expect him to be slower than Hamilton. Sargent and Tsunoda are doomed. Zhou and Stroll seem to be the right amount apart from each other, and Doohan and Albon seem to be similar. Doohan's been out-qualifying Albon, which is interesting. And as we saw, AlphaTauri was the one that went ahead of us on those low-speed corners, so I suspect, actually, Doohan was the one that got those upgrades last time, because he's nipped into that top 10, if you remember rightly, in Australia. I don't know whether to send Mick again. Someone's gone already. Mick is on the cusp of where, if something bizarre happens here, our car is still just not quite that good enough to free Mick from that duty of, maybe there's enough people. Pierre's fine. Pierre's not coming out again. Probably should have sent him out on the same tyres, thinking about it. Okay, Mick's just crossing a line. Yeah, he would have been fine. In fact, he didn't even drop from 8th. He goes faster again, but stays 8th. Just Magnussen to cross the line to push Zhou out, and Zhou is out. So it's the Alphas and the Williamses along with an AlphaTauri. By the way, when I say Alphas, I tend to mean they're Alfa Romeos. Okay, so we'll send Pierre and Mick out again straight away. 8th, though, is nice and comfortable in that top 10. Although, as both our drivers immediately hit traffic on their first laps, it's not awful. They are in the 1:14s. Mick probably just outside, actually. The lap times are comparative, though. The Red Bulls yet to cross the line and actually do proper laps. So Norris has found time, which is what I was expecting from him in Q1, but apparently he's found it now. Vettel currently out-qualifying Magnussen, though, again. I'm sure Magnussen's the better of the two qualifiers. Vettel really struggles in qualifying. I said it last time. Doohan's clearly had a massive issue. That's miles off. I suspect Pierre's fine again, but we're not going to risk it. I kind of think it doesn't matter where we come out now. We just got to try and avoid being behind something drastically slower. It's almost virtuous now to come out of the pit lane first. Whereas in the first couple of seasons, you kind of want to avoid being ahead of something dramatically faster in case it catches you. Now we kind of want to be out of the front of the grid, almost. Because you can't come out last with enough room to not catch the back, because sometimes they never actually cross the line, so you can't run that risk. We'll follow Mick Schumacher in this Q2 flying run, though. He is in 10th. He's the one on the cusp, but we'll expect there's more from him, because both drivers, I think, were hindered immediately on their laps. They sort of ran into drivers just coming into that first chicane, so I don't know how badly that affected them. And obviously used tyres to new tyres. We'd expect to get something out of both drivers here. Pierre more as a precaution. There's a few drivers behind him I suspect can get a couple of tenths, but I think he'd be fine no matter what. Let's be realistic. At this track, I don't think Doohan or the Hasses are getting out, but Ocon on the McLarens are a little bit wildcardy here, because the McLarens should be strong based on their car makeup. Norris doesn't go fast, however. Leclerc does find time. It's relevant. That's second to first. Sainz moves up to third, pushes Pierre down to 6th temporarily. Pierre moves himself back up to 4th, very much in that contention for the front 2 rows. Hamilton improves but stays 9th. Curious. Huge time from Bottas, though. Mick improves to 9th, and everyone else that's not through is behind us on the road. Ricciardo improves, stays 11th. Ocon improves, only goes to 12th. Doohan improves, stays 15th, and Magnussen goes up to 12th. So all fine in the end. None of that Bond 5 actually moved out of the Bond 5. They just rearranged themselves. But it was worth running all the same. You never know. Ricciardo could have found the same kind of time as Norris did, and that could have put Mick in so much more jeopardy than he actually was. And the good news is, in Q3, a lot more drivers come out straight away, so in theory, there'll be less of a hindrance. In fact, we might be okay here unless we catch Sainz by the end and just about avoid it. Verstappen on an interesting run there, and he just gets back in time, really. Leclerc definitely hindered. If Mick can find 17 hundredths to pip Norris, who's found the time all of a sudden, and is putting in consistent laps for 7th as things stand. But yeah, if Mick can pip him, then we're probably on for an 8th with Mick, because Leclerc's going to go ahead, of course. There's no way he stays 10th, unless he doesn't drive again, actually. Once again, they've used their brand new set of softs at the start. I suspect Leclerc will still get into that top 5, actually, because Bottas is second, sort of out of nowhere. And actually, that makes that worth noting now, think about it. Bottas being second, despite not being that one driver that I thought had got ahead of us, is curious. So I wonder what's separating Bottas from Russell here. Because I don't think he's rated higher, or dramatically higher if he is. Once again, it kind of doesn't really matter. I just kind of want to get Pierre Mick directly out behind him, which I don't think he will because of these extra cars. So Pierre on the back of Sainz. Fascinating is Sainz that's got the toe off Leclerc, not the other way around. Obviously, the AI doesn't think of these things, but with Leclerc the one that needing the time more, fascinating. But Mick's last of all. Verstappen is towing Perez, though, so that'll help Perez. Just told me that Perez is sixth after he's behind both Mercs. So essentially, if Mick was a better driver, there'd be a very tight top 8, really. Because if Pierre in our car was matched by someone else with Pierre's quality, then we'd be consistently in the mix with the Red Bulls, the Ferraris, and now the Mercedes, who seem to be doing well despite their car not being fantastic, actually. Because we just checked their car out, and it wasn't the car that we thought. If anything, the AlphaTauri's cars are better than the Mercs. If I remember rightly, I might be mistaken. The Mercs might be just sort of more solidly average, rather than being a specialist in one area like the AlphaTauris might have been. But anyway, let's go on board with Pierre, who's actually started his flying lap already. And through the first chicane, he goes. No issues there. Would you expect faster tyres on both our drivers just by virtue of being on fresh tyres this time round? And actually, Pierre doesn't. But Mick's actually not gone across the first sector line yet, and Mick also doesn't have brand new fresh tyres. Why would he? One of these days, a faster second sector from both is just being put in as actually Pierre goes around the last couple of corners. No one's improving on the tyres naturally, except for Leclerc, who goes second. I think Sainz does improve. Pierre improved by 0.02 and stayed behind Bottas. Unbelievable. Norris actually improved his time, I now realise. Mick didn't improve his, even though he was on new tyres. I don't believe that. Pierre went 0.02 faster on brand new tyres and still stayed 1,000th behind Valtteri. I mean, still P4, we'll take it, but good lord. Valtteri Bottas' time in Q2 would have been good enough for pole. Where the hell did that come from? Well, it's good to know that Mick's fastest time of all 3 sessions was actually still slower than Lando Norris's time. So George Russell with the irritating consistency of 727, 727, 728. Okay, there are strategies that utilise a soft tyre, so keeping one, is it worthwhile? No, apparently medium to hard is faster overall. And the 2 pit stops off medium, even less so. If there's an incident, and there is a corner where incidents can happen, it's where Vettel crashed in season 1. If there's an incident, which is the best tyre to be on to start with? It's the medium, isn't it? The best tyre to be on to start with is the medium, because if there's an incident early, then you want to be able to move on to the hards. And if you've already got on the hards, then you might as well just run them to the end. Or you could put another medium on. So I think medium is the best one to start on, even though he's got brand new softs. I think we just stick them both on medium, and in the knowledge that Mick's slightly better on his tyres, we just pop him in 1 lap later and be done with it. And because you can only take out full laps worth of fuel, there's no point taking a lap out of fuel.
It's lights out, and away we go.
Alrighty then, so P4 and P9, no penalties, of course, at this early stage. I say, of course, I think there was one last race. But obviously, pushing our drivers and all capabilities off the line. Pierre's in a solid position going into this first chicane on Bottas, but it's side by side, it's 2x2. Oh no, he's actually got him on the outbound. Mick's got Norris behind. We'll watch these replays. It's a good drive off the line. Now this is an interesting track because I think it's the even-numbered side that's technically the rubbered inside. Now, I don't know whether the F1 Manager model tracks that properly, but I believe the racing line, therefore the rubbered inside, is what would be the pit lane hugging side of the track, which is where the even numbers are, or were. I can see Mick getting into an interesting position behind. Having taken Russell, he's also just nabbed Perez in the same move. We have not seen his replay for Norris. Multiple positions gained, it says there. I'm hoping we get the replay for that because I didn't see the part that involved Russell. Gains 2 positions. So on the drive out of that left-hander, up the hill. Fantastic viewing angles there. Saw literally none of the move. Saw literally none of it.
And they've really capitalised on that opportunity.
Have they, Crofty? We didn't see it.
The team watching on.
I'm glad they saw it, because I bloody didn't. Hello. Not a massive amount of wiggle room on the tyre, so we'll pull back up almost immediately, but mixing an attacking line on that Ferrari, I don't know whether he's going to try a switchback or just try and get enough of a nose in to, make things awkward on the main straight. Despite pushing the field for an entire lap, Pierre Gasly was actually still +0 there. Interesting. All right, so we'll no longer deploy, of course, as well, but fascinating that the gaps appeared to Perez. Mick Schumacher did the fastest lap of all. It's normally the leader that does that. Okay, so just settle down now, Mick. You've got 3 places on the first lap. Very much feeling like he knows he's got a point to prove after 2 non-scoring finishes. And only 8 points in the first race after Pierre Gasly's done first, second and first so far. Being 62 points behind your teammate after 3 races is alarming. But I don't think we're going to have any worries about being in DRS ranges on... Well, actually no one's got any worries apart from Tsunoda apparently, who is struggling to keep up with even his teammate. Snowden, of course. Oh, he's on hards. Snowden, of course, the man who caused all sorts of problems last race. We're not happy. By the way, the one race where Snowden doesn't go off every 30 seconds is the one where we get held up behind him, or he holds up people who then hold us up. Shout out to Yuki there. I think that's his first clean race in about a year and a half. It's worth checking our top 10 at least. There are a couple of drivers doing soft, medium, but they're far down. And 2 drivers in the top 10 doing hard to soft. Someone's gone wide. I don't think it's mattered. Could it be Ricardo? No, it's Albon, who's now behind Sargent. But he's on hard tyres anyway, so I imagine his race wasn't going to be that pacey to begin with. But Bottas and Perez are on hards. That's partially why Mick's got Perez, and why Perez was struggling to keep up. But he will have DRS on this opening lap. Bottas, in a similar boat to Perez, just sort of on the fringes of threatening to not be in DRS range. Ironically, Albon going off has actually kept Tsunoda into a DRS range of someone. For now, Pierre's done the fastest lap now. As through the DRSs, we have actually dropped Bottas. Everyone with DRS on that straight, we did temporarily lose Bottas, but he's back within a second. But he could be outside of a second by the end of this lap because there's no further benefit for the remainder of this lap. And I think we can sort of get away with speed things up a bit. Because I don't really think... I mean, the director camera angles here are not great, so I'm just going to go on board with Pierre. Just see if he's actually kind of, challenging in any way, shape or form. I think everyone's a little bit more content just to sort of leave things be for time being. Bottas will not be in DRS on this next straight. I believe one of the cars ahead did a faster lap, but then Pierre took it straight off again. So Bottas without DRS is causing problems for Sainz. Mick thought he might have had an opportunity to nab Sainz actually there, by virtue of Sainz looking... Magnussen 10th has dropped out of this train. That actually goes all the way back to Hamilton, who actually nabbed the fastest lap instead. But, I mean, Mick on an attacking line there on the Ferrari, interestingly. Mick really going for it at this early stage. I might pull Mick's fuel off earlier just because he's in this train. I don't really feel the need to push with him. And similarly, I don't think we need to push Gasly at this early stage. He's dropped Bottas behind. I don't think we're in danger of that closing back up again. I think actually taking Mick off the fuel might benefit him in the long run here. Because I think he's getting too close to Sainz, therefore Sainz is thinking about Mick more than he's thinking about Bottas. And I said that in the most northern way possible. I need Sainz to get Bottas, really. Because Mick's not doing a double overtake, let's be real. Could probably almost harvest with Mick. That's a valid point. We can harvest with Mick.
We just need to charge up.
Perez behind's on hard, so he's not going to challenge this early on. This is more about actually preventing Mick from using ERS than it is anything else. I'm just going to be careful with this because I'm going to basically just harvest half a lap at a time. I don't want Perez to get too keen or think that he's got something going on there. Leclerc's 7/10 off Verstappen. But judging how little fuel we actually burnt on the first lap in particular, how relatively slowly the fuel was going down compared to previous races, this appears to be a slightly less fuel-hungry track, it seems. Probably because it's a shorter lap, actually, thinking about it. But mix up about 10% on ERS on that last lap. We're sort of just allowing Sainz to have as much of a look. There's not a lot we can do about it. While there's 2 cars, while there's a Sainz in the way, someone's run wide. It's Ocon, I think. But he's got back on track. Oh, it was Magnussen, apparently. Did Magnussen just hinder Ocon? I swear it was... All right. Well, Leclerc's got right on Verstappen's tail now as well, so I don't know what's happened there. I don't know how he ended up 7/10 behind and then doing this. Leclerc might challenge for the lead on this lap, I think. With DRS on Max, I think he might go for it. As Pierre does the new fastest lap. Ooh, Max defends, and Pierre just charges up the behind a pair of them. Leclerc on the outside, Max on the inside, Pierre staring at both of them. We've got the best view in the house as he yields in an odd spot. I could understand him yielding there, but not halfway up the main straight, or back straight. Sainz actually does get Bottas. Okay, so no longer harvesting. We might try and deploy Mick on this next lap, or next DRS straight anyway. Sainz is going to slightly run away. I don't think he's going to run away to the point where Bottas won't have DRS on the lap, but we'll just utilise the fact that we're on soft tyres to play from here to get close to Bottas before the DRS detection point. Or, sorry, you're trying a little bit early there, Mick. There's the detection point. Be behind at that point. Mick got a little bit too keen there, as Bottas actually might not have DRS. He does not. Wow, Sainz actually dropped him entirely. I wasn't expecting that. Great overtake. We'll just keep deploying just so we don't lose Sainz. And we'll rewatch it. I know it's a DRS overtake, but Perez behind being challenged by Russell. There's a bit of defending going on there. Russell stays behind, I think, but Mick ahead of the hard tyre driver at last. What choice to put Bottas on hards, considering where he qualified? You'd think they'd capitalise on the fact he qualified third, but no, he's down to 6th now. Sainz might have the pace to close up. Okay, I don't think we need to deploy anymore with Mick. I think we might actually drop Bottas as well. Yeah, Sainz is ever so slightly closing on this front two. Leclerc's lost Verstappen again. I don't know if he's sort of harvesting energy and then trying to go for it. Because we saw this happen a couple of laps ago as well. He went out to 7/10 and then suddenly when we looked again, he was challenging it. But that was crucial to get past Bottas when we did, having Sainz already got past. Mick does the fastest lap, but I understand why. Mick challenging Sainz might actually slow Sainz's charge up to the back of us front three, because he's going to have to think about defending instead. Yeah, Leclerc within 2/10 now, so I know there's DRS involved, so I think he might just be maybe harvesting a bit occasionally. But at this point, I don't really see much need to be following it lap by lap. He's actually taken Verstappen on that next DRS straight instead as well, so curious decision. I know we're not the fastest of the three, so I'm just happy to hold on, particularly with Mick. So the pit window isn't for another 10, 12 laps. Well, actually 13, 14 laps, because that's when the window starts, not when the window ends. I wonder if I deploy in a lap, how much that makes for Mick in trying to get closer to the front three. 2 seconds and I've used all the DRS, so that's probably a bad decision in the long run, but yeah, so ourselves and Sainz are just going to swap over occasionally in the DRS zones as the soft, medium runners pit. That's just doing a sergeant, no one else. I don't know when the hard strategy ends. I don't know if it still appears on the strategy editor. It doesn't. So it's going to be about 2/3 into the race, I'd imagine. It's probably around lap 40 something. Actually, no, it'll be about 18 laps from the end, won't it? So yeah, probably 43, 4. So they're going to be going forever, these hard runners. Car on the wall. It's not a crash out. It's just a... He's back. He's broken his wing. Couldn't have done that in Australia, could you, Yuki? When we needed to get rid of you. I just realised I didn't do the race incentive, which right now would have been looking really nice. Pierre at 1 position, Mick up 4. This is definitely Mick's best race in a very long while. I see Pierre's in that position again. And so is Mick, actually, for that matter. They both recovered their fuel, worth noting. They're both in that position where they are being towed invariably by faster vehicles at this stage. So there's no benefit in pushing their tyres until those drivers ahead pit. And because we can't see the pit lane, which is actually a little bit of a weird thing, actually. F1 Manager 23, it would be nice to know when other constructors send out their pit crews, effectively. We won't know which car they're pitting, but it'd be nice to know, particularly if they're on a split strategy like Bottas and Russell right now. So if the Merc pit crew came out, as a team principal, we can just turn around and see that. So Mick's actually challenging Sainz on this lap, but we don't have access to that data in the game. Or if we do, it's not in a spot that's very easily accessible. Is Mick still going for it? Blimey, Mick. This is a hell of a move. They're still fighting. Mick and Cars have been side by side for half a lap here. Mick's finally sort of yielded. He's still on an attacking line, but he's folded in now. That's fantastic driving. It's cost him a significant amount of time, but it's fantastic driving. 4 seconds between drivers. Do you reckon we could pit them together? But realistically, it's all well and good. Verstappen retakes Leclerc here. It's all well and good, assuming they're going to pit on the same lap as us. They might not do. They might go an extra lap. His tyres are 5% better. Oh, you can see the difference between Pierre and Mick there. That's 2% over that first stint. And I took them both off push at the same time. Okay, 1.5, I guess, maybe, but with rounding. So Verstappen's pitted now. Leclerc's still faster than Pierre, so there's no real benefit pitting. It's only Verstappen that's in the pit as well. Now, he's come out in a gap behind Zhou, which is actually a really nice gap for him. So it's good to know that's where he'd come out. I suspect, by the way, Mick would come out behind Stroll based on their relative position to Verstappen right now. So Stroll might be, actually, we need to wait for Stroll for Mick. There is a Williams passing the... I was really hoping I'd be able to see through the pit wall there, but okay, well, that angle shows me something. I don't know which one's coming in. It could be Sainz for all I know, actually. It is Sainz. We're going to go the other way around. Okay, so Leclerc's pitting this lap. Sainz did come out behind Stroll, by the way, so he's about 1.5 seconds behind, so I think he's not going to have an issue. Wait, did Mick just not pit? Mick didn't pit! Okay, well, either I missed the button or whatever to say confirm, but okay. Stroll's pitted this lap as well, so that's good news. We are running 1 and 2 at this stage. We are double stacking now as a result, but there's enough of a gap on the road to get away with it. Just almost identical pit stop times, 2.5 for both. The time in the pit. Okay, so Verstappen's through Mick, but... Oh, Pierre's fighting Verstappen. He's got Leclerc, though. Take the fuel off, but Mick's ahead of Sainz. It's not going to make much difference because he's still within DRS range, but just do a little bit of deploy with Pierre just to make sure he's within a second of Verstappen, but although Verstappen might get caught on Vettel, thinking about it, no real need to push that tyre. Everyone's on the same tyre there. As for Mick, 5 seconds up to Leclerc, is there any chance we can close that gap because they're all going to get stuck behind Ocon. Okay. Okay, well, there's no real point pushing mixed tyres then, or fuel for that matter. I wonder if they'll catch Bottas and Perez before the end of this race. That strategy is looking quite poor, by the way, right now. Verstappen only 13 seconds behind Bottas on brand new hards, and that gap's only going to be closing over the next 12, 13 laps, I imagine. They'll go on faster mediums, of course, at that point, or faster softs, actually, at that point. But whether it's going to be enough, I don't know. Russell's come out about 3 seconds behind Sainz and ourselves. Sorry. Okay. I should have watched that replay. I was just too stunned to realise what was happening. Is Pierre pulling away from Max? No, I think it's all there. Okay, well, these three drivers, Pierre, Max and Charles, have just taken about a second out of those hard runners. Max is going to get him straight back, though. Okay, so that's the way that's going to be. They are massively pulling away from Mick and Sainz, who are fighting each other as well. Okay, so this might be just the way Imola goes now for the remainder of this race. That's a point. How within a second... Ooh, Perez and Bottas might not be out of the fight with Mick. I mean, they are losing time to Mick and Sainz. And I do wonder if, as a unit, the Verstappen, Gasly, Leclerc trio are going to make those front two slow down, just if they do catch them. Yeah, so Sainz and Mick are swapping over. That's no surprise. Verstappen and Gasly are swapping over constantly. Again, not a surprise. But that gap to the leaders, Bottas and Perez on the old hards, there's now just over 7 seconds. And Mick and Sainz are with sort of around 15 now, so they're going to come out about 8 seconds. Mick runs wide briefly. That's not really going to be that much of an issue. We can push the fuel again.
You can stop lifting coast.
Well, he has done it at kind of the worst point, though. But okay, DRS on Sainz again. Russell out of DRS. We don't need to push that fuel either. Good. Okay, so back to leader. Sainz 40 seconds off Bottas and Perez now. The real front trio, only 5 seconds off. This trio. I wonder how many more laps they've got. 48%. Probably about 4 more. 4 or 5 more, I'd imagine, if they're going on to softs. Doohan's just pitted. Oh, that's the soft, medium runners. Ruining their race once more. I love the fact they give Jack Doohan absolutely 0 chance of points any given week. I'm fascinated to know what the last lap was for them. So Verstappen did a 1:17.7 with DRS boosting and all that. I think PS just taken him. So they have gone 2 seconds faster than Bottas and Perez. Bottas, at least. And even Mick's gone a full second faster. So it's whether or not the soft tyres that they go onto are going to hold on long enough for them to catch up to Mick and Sainz again. Because that's the real tricky bit. And in fact, I'd argue probably Norris and Hamilton are right on the fringes of where them two are going to come out. Verstappen, Pierre and Leclerc are all going to get caught up on them this lap. So if they don't pit, which they don't, those two are actually going to hold them up. Hamilton and Norris definitely well within the pit stop of those front two now as well. They're going to be on brand new softs, so easy pickings. And Verstappen's spun. Hang on a second. Leclerc's a full second behind Gasly. I mean, if there's ever a time to deploy, now's it. Oh, Perez did pit, actually. Okay, well, Gasly's got past Perez before the DRS line. I was kind of hoping to hold him off before this line, but never mind.
Good job.
Basically hoping Perez holds him up enough during those couple of corners that it won't matter. But, oh, Perez stayed out. Gasly does a new fastest lap, but Perez stayed out, which is, useful for his race, but not great for Leclerc, I'd imagine. Considering we were going 2 seconds a lap faster than Perez, Gasly should just be walking away at this point, even without deploying. Okay, Perez has now come in, so we'll stop pushing those tyres straight away, and we'll stop pushing that fuel as well. Bottas does the fastest lap, having gone on to softs, and they have indeed come out behind Norris and Hamilton, by the way. So that prediction has come true. So 5th. Okay, so Sainz and Mick only 5 seconds behind Verstappen after he's gone off, of course. They weren't held up enough, and actually Russell's joined the party. So I don't really know what happened there, because Russell was notably behind. Mick ahead, though, temporarily. There'll come a point here, by the way, where I just decide to push the fuel on Mick. Oh, that's awkward timing. Damn, that's not good. I'll see if just Mick can attack Russell. Oh, that going wide was devastating, actually, because it's now put him in exactly the same problem he was in Australia. Thankfully, it's not cost him, back in the grid this time, but Leclerc's only just outside of a second on Gasly. They are faster, so I can push all I like, and they are going to get caught up eventually. Okay, good to know. Okay, so pushing the tyre I don't think is any help. In fact, I might just use this opportunity to harvest instead. Actually, yeah, push the fuel, but harvest. That might sort of counterbalance a bit. Keep you in DRS range. Just do it every alternate lap, basically. Harvest 1 lap, drive normally the next, get right on the gearboxes again, and then harvest again. That might be the way to do this. So Bottas and Perez have joined Hamilton and Norris now. They've caught up there, but there's 8 seconds between them and us. Leclerc and Gasly are now fighting. Verstappen 4 seconds behind without DRS, not closing, which is interesting. I don't know what kind of offer he had, actually. I didn't watch it. But this is going to be a case of maybe doing the same, actually. Whilst behind, harvesting. Verstappen is catching slightly, actually. Although he didn't catch that much over the full lap. There's 12 laps to go, so I think Max is still going to catch by the end of the race. He loses out on this main straight. Yeah, I think he net gains 1/10 over the course of the full lap, including the DRS, because he gains about 4/10 to half a second over the course of the lap, but then in the DRS, we pull out 4/10 again. So what he gains on the regular part of the lap, he loses immediately on the DRS. I think it's because we just sort of slightly fall off over the course of, and then when we get to the DRS, we pull back in again. But I think we've got a lap's worth of DRS effectively, ERS effectively now on Pierre, so we can do that last lap push if we so desire. Now, Mick is in less of a good position here. We are pulling away from Hamilton, it is worth noting, so Bottas and Perez trapped on their softs in 9th and 10th aren't going to be a problem, I don't think. There's been an incident, but it's not been major. It was Sargent this time. Mick's struggling to keep on with these two now, actually. Certainly the DRS is keeping him in range. Oh, we're catching a back marker. This could be problematic when it comes to A, keeping hold of Leclerc, and B, Verstappen behind, who is now on the fringes of 3 seconds. Again, that comes back out with DRS, but depending on where we catch this back marker, which is Tsunoda, it's the very, very back marker. Where will Tsunoda get out of the way? Is it in a sensible place? It is in a sensible place. Good. Okay, Mick doing better now. Be another incident, but no safety car or anything like that. Oh, it's Tsunoda again, bless him. Just save another smidge on Mick, and I think we've got a full lap's worth on Mick now as well. So both drivers can do a last lap push now if they so desire. Bottas has got through Hamilton. And actually, Hamilton just goes wide at that very moment, which I think is effectively going to let Perez through as well. Don't need to watch that replay, we just saw it in the background. But yeah, that happened effectively the same time Perez and Norris were side by side behind Hamilton. So that's allowed Perez to get through as well. So Bottas now has 6 laps to close 8 seconds on these 3 drivers to get anything out of that. And their soft tyres are already dead. There's a safety car. Who's crashed? I can't see anyone obvious. Joe's in the first chicane. It's not him. Is it Hamilton? Having just gone wide, it's Hamilton. He's done what Vettel did. Oh, I mean, it's good news for Magnussen. Mick's in 6th. He has 8 seconds to Bottas. I'm going to be bold with Mick. He's only got 2 laps to basically do anything with it, but Gasly is currently leading. Right now, ignore. I'm trying to see if there's anyone out. Ocon's out. Ocon, because Hamilton's out, so it has to be Ocon. Ocon's out. He's on 60% hard. That's an odd choice. But none of the main teams have gone out. So we have, right, obviously, we have to ignore the fact that Verstappen is 5 seconds behind as things stand. If they're not pitting, then Leclerc and Verstappen will be back on Gasly's tail immediately anyway. So Verstappen being 5 seconds behind on the road, irrelevant at this point, because he will be in challenging distance of Gasly at the restart. So do we put Gasly 3rd, effectively, if we can get out ahead of Russell? I don't think we'll be able to get out ahead of Russell either. I think 8 seconds is too much. How far apart are our cars on the road, by the way? 15 seconds. Okay, we could pit both. It's a bold strategy. Oh, sorry, I just realised I was on interval, actually. It's 13 seconds back to Russell. We might actually be able to get out ahead of him. At the very least, we'll come out behind Sainz, because if Mick pits as well, then that's where we'll come out. And we've got a brand new set for Pierre. Oh, I'm going for it. I'm going for it, because it's going to be a tense old fight to the line otherwise. I'd rather go for it and get it wrong, knowing that I at least did something. I'm basically making sure I do what they don't. I'm doing an Abu Dhabi. I'm doing what they don't. Interesting, Tsunoda, who's lap behind us, has just pitted, so this could be interesting in terms of the restart. Okay, so Pierre, miles ahead of Russell. Miles ahead of Russell. Not an issue at all. Oh, sorry, Bottas. That's Bottas I'm looking at. Sorry, he's behind Russell. He was still 20 seconds in the pit lane. That's ridiculous. So Gasly has to dispatch 4 cars in probably about 4 laps. Mick, I don't know what happens with here. Okay, so conserve.
Yeah, take it easy.
Mick's now caught up. I fully suspect we'll go 1 more lap.
Loads of energy.
Tsunoda's in the train, by the way. Tsunoda is the car directly ahead of Mick in this train. He will be allowed to unlap himself now, which actually I think might mean this coming in. Okay, it's not coming in. There's no way that's coming in. They won't allow Tsunoda to get caught up. That won't happen.
No overtaking.
Okay, so there will be 3 racing laps. There was 1 more under the safety car than I was anticipating. I thought they'd let Tsunoda out before they did. Full attack, full push, full deploy. Full attack, full push, full deploy. I don't think we have any reason not to go full attack on everything on these last 3 laps. We'll have to undeploy and then redeploy on the final lap, I think. But the fuel, I don't think we'll ever have to turn off either. No DRS either, so they won't have that benefit. This is all on tyres, fuel, deployment, and driver and car. We will never have DRS again. So ideally, Pierre needs to get someone straight away on this restart, which is proven tricky, as everyone's lines are all over the place. Okay, so he's got sights, I think, there. That's going to be sights done. Vaguely keep an eye on Mick behind. I think he's got Norris. I'm not certain. It looked like he was attacking someone. There goes Russell. Come on! Come on, Pierre! We say, this is now intense because we're doing the attacking. We're the one getting the excitement from these moves. We're no longer nervous of defence. Because obviously, we'd have restarted this in the lead. That's fine. We would have been able to push a little bit on those tyres, and it might have been all right with no DRS. But now we're doing the aggressive. It's nervous, but in the other way. Okay, so he's got Norris. Okay, so we'll hold off on the deployment of the ERS again now. Okay, so now Pierre is on the attack on Leclerc and Verstappen. Attacking Verstappen into the first chicane. He's not going to get it there unless he does the undercut instead. No, he doesn't dip on the inside. Come on, Mick, as well. You need to be doing something here. Ideally, I need to try and get Mick 4 places here. Maybe the gamble wasn't worth it on Mick. I don't know, but come on, Pierre. You're better than this. He's got the drive. He's got the drive into the chicane. He's ahead of Max. There's only Leclerc to go. Mick's also got Perez behind, I've noticed. And he's got to deal with a 36% Bottas ahead of him now. Final lap. Well, we're all starting Gasly overtake, actually, because it happened in the chicane, so we didn't really see it. Oh, it's a little bit better angle there. I like that. Lovely move. On the inside. It's not as easy as I thought it was going to be. But he's got the final lap just to get Leclerc. I won't be surprised as well if Pierre gets the fastest lap if he gets him off the starting point. Oh, he's gone into the chicane. Oh, I thought he'd gone wide there. That was a weird angle from him, but he's got him on the outbound. And we've gone through the first few corners. Full deploy now. Mick, however, full deploy now as well. I should have done you earlier. You had more ERS somehow. Don't need to look at the tyres, just look at the intervals. I mean, he's pulled out a second. He's pulled out a second. Come on, Mick, get Bottas back again. You'll be back in status quo if you get Bottas at least. And there won't be any issues there. I'll be happy with that. He's got him. If you can get Sainz now, get Sainz on the run-in. Someone's locked up. Oh, he's at the back. Come on, Pierre. I mean, interesting line. Mick around the outside of that final chicane. Oh my God, he's going to get Sainz to the line. He's going to get Sainz to the line. He's got Sainz to the line. Russell's got ahead. Russell benefited massively out of that. Pierre got fastest lap as well. Got off Perez. That was crucial as well. That's another valuable point. Come on! It was Tsunoda that went off, by the way. Of course it was. It says Sainz plus 0. He was definitely behind Mick. He wasn't side by side. I mean, at the very least, it's valuable overtaking points for their development purposes.
This podium is a...
Podium? It's a win, Crofty. Context, Crofty. Context. Well, enjoy the music for once. Did a 1:15.3 on the last lap. But barely off qualifying pace there at the end. Unsurprising, really, when you think about it. But it's worth noting, actually, Mick would have got fastest lap if Pierre hadn't. Because he did a 1:16.9 compared to Perez's 1:17.1 that he did when he went onto the softs to begin with. So, George benefited massively just by virtue of being ahead when the safety car was called. That very much, well, I say that very much hindered the hard soft runners. Their tyres would have gone off anyway by the end, so I don't know what they were planning. Because that strategy clearly is meant to be for brand new softs at the end, and they didn't have those. So Pierre opens up a 20-point lead, having claimed the fastest lap. 3 of the 4 fastest laps so far have gone to Pierre Gasly. The other one went to Hamilton, who I don't think got a point for it. But Mick with 10 points overtakes Ocon and Albon once again, more than doubling his points tally so far. That's nice to see. That combined with Pierre's 26 points gives us 36 and allows us to retake Red Bull for the overall constructors. We're more in this than I thought we were. Inexplicably, that's less than 1,000 points for Pierre. I think that's largely because he was third in the train originally, so he didn't do that many overtakes in the first place. But I don't understand how Mick didn't do more, considering he was alternated with sights quite frequently. Okay, but he's got a development point. We'll see if this gets him to 80 overall. By the way, I'm doing research on the rear wing. I'm building a new chassis, and the suspension version 4 will be here in 4 days. The new ATR period is very close as well. But let's just do Behrman's extra point right now. Stick that in cornering, round him off to 70 on everything. And we'll round Mick off an 80 on everything. Doesn't get him his 80 overall, annoyingly. That's a shame, but getting there, I'll give him an extra point in control because that's actually the thing that prevents racing incidents. It's weird kind of how many of these things actually reduces like spinning or running wide and things like that. But if we look at the calendar, by the way, there's a couple of major sort of facility things that went into 80% and repair mode, and they sort of cost 4 million a piece, which is why our money right now isn't superb, but we're kind of having to do about 8 or 9 million pounds worth of refurbishments. So the suspension design will be done by the end of this week. That's grand. The ATR period opens 2 days after that, so we'll be able to do a minor part after that because we've actually got the majority of our staff working on this chassis, which comes in on the day actually the ATR period opens. So Actually, no worries. We'll hold off until that day to start manufacturing stuff, regardless. So we'll be able to get going on 2 projects on the day the ATR period opens. Superb work there. It's almost as if I timed it. I didn't, by the way. It just where that happened to be with the most amount of engineers we had remaining, basically. I'm doing that on Rushed, by the way, in case you're wondering why that's happening so quickly. It only took 24 days on Rush, I think it was. But there we go, a superb race. In fact, the best race so far, thinking about it, because 1st and 5th is better than Mick did in Bahrain by 1 place. So let's keep this up, particularly as we're in clearly a strong portion of the year for us. Let's keep this up, shall we? Mick, when do you get your 80 overall? Seriously, you can't be far off. It's bugging me that he's still on 79. He's got to be getting close. He's got to be, surely. But if you enjoy this, like, comment, subscribe. Until next time, thank you for joining me. Ta-ra.